Welcome to In the Spotlight with Amy Scruggs, where we feature great artists, entrepreneurs, community leaders, and, well, anyone that should have that moment to share their story in the spotlight. Welcome to this fun, special live edition of In the Spotlight. A lot of times I do recordings with amazing guests, but this one we needed to go live because I am so thankful to introduce to all of you out here in virtual land, which I love, to Rachel King. She has been a serial entrepreneur since she was 12. She's a military veteran in the Army. Thank you so much for your service. And she is also owner of King's Law Firm. She has her own law firm practice. She is a mother of 3 amazing kids, a wife, and so much more. And you can hear her inspiring story today. And like the rest of us, she's fighting off a cold and she's still happy to be with us right now. So many people are sick, so don't worry about it. We will work with you. Rachel, thank you so much.
Water.
It's everyone. It's totally acceptable. It's socially acceptable now. It's fine.
It really is. Thank you so much, Amy, for having me. It's been it's always fun to work with you, and I look forward to being here.
So for all of our viewers and then listeners here, I've had a chance to get to know Rachel for a couple months now. And I have to say, I brag about her offline because she's truly one of the most amazing humans I've ever met. And so if you're just starting to watch this, please don't go anywhere or flag it to come back to watch later because Rachel is truly one of a kind. But Rachel, I cannot tell your story better than you do. So I want you to fill in our viewers on your background. I love that it starts off with a serial entrepreneur since the age of 12. How did that start?
Well, actually, like most kids, or I don't know how it works these days, but back when I was young, we used to babysit. That was how you got all of your money. So I started babysitting at probably around 11. Excuse me. I was invited to babysit for my neighbor. And I did that. And from there, it grew and grew. And I had so many jobs that I was giving my work to my friends, but I wasn't getting any of the money. Excuse me. So I realized, well, if I get some cards and I work this a little bit like a real life baby sitters club, I can make more money. So at 12 years old, I started babysitting. And that was my first entrepreneur experience. And I'm still going strong. Not babysitting, though.
I'm so jealous of that because I also was babysitting as a teenager, but I was not that smart. I did not think of putting that into practice that way and realizing I can turn this into a business. So I'm so impressed that you realized it then. I was just doing one-offs, driving all over town.
So I was really lucky that I was one of the only children, or I was a child, but that was babysitting age that wanted to do it. I had friends that didn't want to babysit either, but I wanted to babysit. I've always been, financially inclined. So that was where it all began.
And where did you go from there? What was your next adventure?
I did that for a couple of years, and then I realized that I wanted something a little bit more prestigious. So when I was 15, I got my lifeguarding certificate, and I started teaching lifeguard or working at the YMCA actually as a lifeguard. And when I was 16, I taught swimming lessons at the YMCA. Swimming lessons led to another business where myself and then friends of mine taught swimming lessons in home. So that was kind of my second experience owning a business. And from there, I graduated finally. So that was good. I was happy to graduate high school and college. While I was in college, or while I attempted college, Amy, let me be clear. While I attempted college the first time, I did not own any companies. I kind of put them all on the side.
So you're saying you have military background. How did you transition over there into the military then? You started college, you're done with the babysitting and the lifeguarding. What took place?
I wanted to go to college at the beach. That was always super important to me. I'm from Southern California, so I tried college at the beach, and I quickly found myself hanging out on the beach far more than I was going to class. And one day my parents called me and they said, so we're not going to do this. We're not funding your beach lounging days. And so I had nothing to do. I couldn't do it. They basically cut me off financially instantaneously. So I looked around to see what I knew, what I could do. I don't actually come from a military family, but I was friends with a lot of military because in Southern California, there are plenty of military posts. And I ended up joining the Army because I wasn't going to do school at that point.
That's a huge choice. I mean, especially as a young woman to say, this is the direction I'm going to go. Clearly, looking back, you probably have no regrets. What did you specialize in the Army and what was that experience like for you?
So when I actually went to join the Army, you go to something called MEPS, which is where all of the branches go and you get to find your job. And I remember walking in and I talked to all of the different branches, but the Army really appealed to me because of the Army College Fund. And I knew ultimately I wanted to go to college and be a lawyer, just wasn't quite ready then. So I focused on the Army, and the Army ended up telling me, oh, we can get you shipped out in like 6 months. And I looked at all of the recruiters and I said, so I'm a pretty motivated individual. I can tell you, if you don't get me out of here in 2 weeks, I'm going to have a plan B because I have to figure this out. And so they went back, they reworked some things, and I ended up going in as a communications specialist. We worked with internet encryption, things like that. And then after that, I transitioned to become a paralegal in the Army.
So you come out of the Army now, you've got that entrepreneur mindset. Now you've got that legal foundation for you ready to start. Where did this legal background come from for you? What made you say, I want to be an attorney?
I grew up in a house of attorneys. Well, not attorneys. My dad is an attorney. My cousin is an attorney. My cousin is a bit older than me, so he always was more like an uncle figure. And I was very familiar with the law. My dad would always bring me in to the living room when we were, after work, and he would talk me through his cases, probably because he had to work and he needed to use it as some, father-daughter time, but he would explain the cases.
We're bonding.
Yeah. And then he would ask me what he should do, right? And I remember a couple of times I guess I chose the right answer. And so he used it. He's like, I'm going to use it because you said it. And as a kid, I was like, oh, that's great. I made his legal argument for him. Now, as an attorney, I realize I just guessed well as a child. So I had a lot of that growing up. And I really was attracted to what my dad and my uncle, or my dad and my cousin, did for a living, how they were able to solve client problems. And I wanted some of that glory as well.
Well, as we talk about solving problems, a big part of being an entrepreneur, I interview a lot of entrepreneurs. There's always the problems, the hurdles. So for you, you have that entrepreneurial, try to say that one, entrepreneurial spirit about you. You've opened your law firm. I think you said 2014, right? You opened the firm. What were some of the obstacles that you've faced as an entrepreneur, as a young, beautiful lawyer? Because let's face it, that's part of the factor as a young woman to say, here I am in this space. What were some of those obstacles that you faced out the gate that might help and encourage and inspire others?
So I think there's so many obstacles. Everybody faces obstacles. There's not an entrepreneur that exists that hasn't faced their fair share of obstacles. For me, one of the things that was probably the most challenging for me to overcome is how to practice law how I want to in the legal field as it exists, or as it existed in 2014. And while 2014 wasn't that long ago, actually the legal field has shifted quite a bit. So I remember I was younger. I really like clothes. I really like to look cute. And I walked into this big event. When I started my firm, I didn't have any money, but I knew I needed clients. So I had to hit the pavement, right? So I went out, I walked into this huge networking event. I didn't really know anybody, but this man came up to me and introduced himself, and he happened to be an attorney too. So I told him I was an attorney. Amy, can you believe he didn't believe me? I had to convince this guy that I was an attorney. He didn't actually take me seriously till I pulled out a business card that had my name and said I was an attorney. And then he looked me up and down and said, oh my gosh, you're never going to make it if you dress like that.
Oh my goodness.
Before you judge, I was dressed very beautifully. I just wasn't dressed in a typical suit. I had, I think, some boots on and a sweater or something. And
you weren't in an old baggy suit out of the 1980s?
Correct. And to me, that was really the first time that I was like, oh, yes, I can do this. I'm going to practice how I want. I'm going to dress how I want. And I'm going to be the kind of attorney that I want to be. I was super fortunate because I opened my own firm and I could do that.
Mhm.
Realizing that that was going to be something that I had to overcome. That was my first time having to kind of really face it head on. It's continued to be a struggle. I still deal with it on almost a weekly basis. So I guess that would be it, being a woman in the legal field, wearing whatever you want.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Heaven forbid you have fashion and brains, right?
Right?
You touched on something really interesting when you said you started this and you had no money, because a lot of young professionals maybe just starting out are saying, I want to start a business. I have an entrepreneur spirit. I want to do this, but I don't have a mass amount of funds that can fund me getting a business up and going. The narrative is different today. And you just said you started it with no money. Why don't you share on that a little bit? And I think that could be really encouraging for those that want to start a business, that it can be done.
It can be done. It can absolutely be done. In fact, I always go back to the definition of a business, which is doing something for the purpose of making money. You don't even actually have to make money. You just have to have the intention of making money. And that in itself is what starting a business is. It's easy in theory to start a business if you have lots of money, right? You can go hire
Sure.
all of the right people, but it doesn't take away the fact that you still have to sell something and people have to want to buy it.
You have to be good at what you do.
I think having no money, and I shouldn't say, let me correct, I shouldn't say no money. I had a budget of $1,800 to start my law firm. And I know that
Oh
can
my
still be
gosh.
considered a lot of money for a lot of people, but I think you do with it what you will. If I had less, I wouldn't have changed anything. I just would have maybe bought less business cards on the first order, right? Uh, and I knew that I had this much money. There were things that were really important to me. I knew I needed a website. I knew I wanted a different phone number than my own cell phone. And that was
Mhm.
kind of took all of my money at that point. So what do you do to get clients? I couldn't advertise online. I couldn't afford it. I didn't really know how to do social media or anything. I felt really constrained. Radio was out because I didn't have any money. So I went and I knocked on people's doors, and I went to every free event that existed to tell people what I did. And it just sort of keeps going. And I believe 100% that if you want to start a business, just get out there and tell people what you do
Yes.
over and over and over again as an 8-hour day. My favorite day in starting the company, I had nothing to do, no clients. And my
Right.
husband asked me what I was doing. And I said, I'm going here, 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 and here. There's 5 places. And he said, really? And I said, yeah, there's 5 networking events. I have an 8-hour day that I'm supposed to be working. So that's how I'm going to spend my 8
Brilliant.
hours. And many people aren't willing to do that, but that's what it takes.
It is what it takes. My favorite mentor, David Meltzer, always uses he calls it Goya, get off your
Yeah.
ass. And that's exactly what you did.
All you have to do is tell people what you do, right? You don't just tell people because somebody knows somebody. And all businesses are sales. And it's a numbers game, truly. You tell a certain amount of people, you're going to get one client, and it just keeps going that way.
Well, now you're in the practice. You've been in the practice for 8 years since you opened King Law Firm. Let's talk about the areas that you do practice in. I would love for you to share some things with us on the area on that those areas, and then we're going to kind of dive into. I have some geeky questions for you. What areas of law do you practice?
I am a strategic litigator. And so that means I handle courtroom cases, right? If there is an issue that is in court, that's what I do. I do real estate litigation, family law litigation, and probate and trust litigation. So those are the main areas. And again, not that I'm always up for settling, right? You shouldn't
Right.
always settle everything, but if there's a fight that's happening, then that would be a case that I would take.
What are your favorites? I mean, is there I know you love it all, but is there something that's like, "Oh, I love this kind of case," or "I love this category." What is it?
I really, really love probate and probate litigation, specifically elder law, actually. I think that
Ooh,
financial elder abuse, it's sad, right? Because we want to pretend
right.
that it doesn't happen, but it
That's
happens all
huge.
the time. It happens with people that you trust and that you love and family. And I think the reason that it makes me feel sad or that I want to help in it is because most of the people that get taken advantage of don't have the ability to re-earn. If somebody takes my money, that's too bad, right? But I at least can go out and earn it. When you're 70 or 80 years old and somebody steals all your money, you can't earn anymore. So you're kind of destitute. So I think from a emotional and a personal standpoint, but also I really enjoy the area of law. That very limited area would be my absolute favorite, but I truly love family law. I love all of the areas I've practiced. I've practiced in others before. I've narrowed it to this, Amy, so that I would be practicing everything I love.
Oh, see that I love that. You kind of found this is my lane. This is where I want to be. And I'm sure that that probably keeps you busy enough once you really identified it. And that's the entrepreneur side of you as well, knowing, okay, where is my highest and best use? Where is my passion? And it seems like you can combine those things together.
Absolutely. And I learned also over the years that I really enjoy being in court. I'm pretty good at being in court. And so being able to really hone my skills as a litigator and take what I do into the courtroom, I think provides the best benefit to my clients.
Well, in benefit for my viewers and listeners, I've got a couple questions here because with you being an attorney, I know this is probably a silly thing to equate it to, but if I get sick or I hurt myself, the last thing I'm usually going to do is call a doctor because I always think I can handle it myself. It's fine. My leg always bends backwards like this. It's no problem. I'm used to it. Oh, this cut. Oh, it's not that deep. I'll stitch it myself. I feel like there's probably that same mindset when it comes to calling an attorney, like, no, not going to do that yet. Nope, last resort. Oh, it's too much. I don't want to deal with it. When is that right time? And so, all of you out here watching and listening right now, don't wait if this is you. In these different areas that you practice, when is the right time to call an attorney?
I think first in all across all of the areas of law, it is time to call an attorney when you get served legal paperwork. And that seems very obvious, but many people will pretend they didn't get served
Oops.
or push it off. If you don't handle it, then you lose automatically. So if you're served, time to call an attorney, at least know what's going on. In family law, though, I think I would also recommend people to call an attorney if you are separating or going from, a marital type relationship to not being in that relationship, just so you can learn about your rights, you can learn about the process and what to expect. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to sign a fee agreement and get on the hook for a $10,000 retainer, but know what you should be looking for and know what you can do to maybe put yourself in a better strategic place or just protect your own rights. In real estate, I would say call an attorney if somebody's claiming ownership of your house or you have any disputes on ownership, that's the biggest issue. There's, of course, other reasons when it comes to real estate to call an attorney.
Sure. Well, I noticed a lot of people just call their real estate agent. They need to be calling you, correct?
Right. A real estate agent is really good to handle a transaction, but in California, they're not attorneys. So
Right.
I actually have people call me and say, I don't understand my disclosures. I don't know that my realtor is explaining them right. Can you just tell me what they say? So
Wow.
I guess, the takeaway is if you have questions, call an attorney to see if you can get them answered, because at least it'll leave you with peace of mind. It doesn't always mean you need an attorney, but then you won't be wondering down the road if you should have called.
Right. What about, and for those in domestic situations, maybe the marriage is starting to look like it's not going to be doing so well, and especially if there's children, what do you advise?
Well, call an attorney. It's important, though, that I think when people are getting ready to separate, well, the first thing I ask is, have you guys talked about it? Right? Is this going to be a surprise to the other person, or is
Right,
this
'cause
kind of inevitable?
that set the other person off. She called an attorney.
Right. And now there's time and places for it, right? You don't always want to call. You don't always want to give them a heads up if you think they're going to take off with the money or it's an abusive situation. But I always like to know that. Is this going to be a surprise? Are we going to be dropping a bomb? And then in every family situation, even though I'm a litigator, right? So this goes against that. But even though I'm a litigator, in every family situation, the more you can agree on, really, the better. At the end of the day, I want what's best for my clients, but I don't have to live their life. So as soon as the case is over, I get to walk away. They're the ones that are left with the court orders, raising their children under the financial restrictions or benefits that they've gotten in their divorce. So if the more that people can agree on, I always think that's the best.
That's good advice. What advice do you have for our entrepreneurs watching this that are also like, wow, I really always wanted to be an attorney, or someone young saying that, okay, I'm ready. I'm starting law school. I have a friend whose son just graduated law school. He's just starting. What advice do you have for young future attorneys?
I get asked to talk to people's family members all the time, and it always makes me really nervous to talk to people about whether they should go into law. First of all, you gotta love it. Law school is crazy expensive. It is so stressful and it takes a long time. There are periods of my law school and bar that I don't even remember because I feel like I was in such a tunnel vision. So really want it. And know that it is not like it is on TV. If you want to become the flashy attorney like you see on, Boston Legal, I'm aging myself, but or one of these lawyer shows, that's not how it looks. So go in, meet with some real life attorneys, see if you can intern even in high school, get a feel for the legal field. I found that you either love the legal field or you hate the legal field. So make sure you love it before you give your years and years and money away to a law school.
That's good advice. Are we allowed to ask you if there's any really crazy story you can tell, or do I have to skip past that?
Oh, well, I think every lawyer.
No one's watching, I promise.
Their hidden book of stories. I certainly have plenty. I think all lawyers should be able to write memoirs of all their stories before they die and not have it violate attorney-client privilege. But we're probably way far away from that. I remember I was a brand new attorney. I had just started my firm, and I relied very heavily on talking to my dad and my cousin about kind of what I should do. And I got this call this one day, and these individuals wanted to come in and talk to me about forming a company. So I said, okay. So they came in, they were telling me kind of about it. And I thought, oh, something's weird. It gave me like an off feeling. So I stepped out and I asked my cousin, I said, I don't know what's going on, but I think there's something weird, something fishy going on. Do I take the case or do I not? And he said, ask as many questions as you need to until you're comfortable. I said, okay. So I went back in, and Amy, I asked every question, like what the business was, what they were doing, what was happening. Turns out, and then I look at them and I said, so I don't want to be insulting, but this really looks like it might be a money laundering operation. And I don't want to do it. I was being very honest, right? I was very young. And I said, I don't want to get involved in that. All I could think was Better Call Saul, right? I'm going to
right. Better Call Saul.
And it turns out, so they were polite. It turns out it was. I later learned that it was some of the cartel that needed,
oh my God,
they needed essentially that, right? They needed that. So they were polite. They excused themselves. They called me back a couple of days later and asked me if I would reconsider. And I said, I just don't think I'm the attorney for you. I don't want to get involved in illegal things. But if you want me to refer an attorney that might be able to help you, I could. They did not ask for the referral.
Oh my gosh.
I think one of the scariest and most interesting.
What a good vetting process. Holy cow.
I've taken that with me. That was really good advice. It was one of those things that's never happened again, right? But the advice of ask as many questions as you need to until you're comfortable taking the case is something that I really live by. I want to know all of it because I don't want to take a case that I'm not comfortable taking, but also I don't want to take my clients down a path that's like a losing path.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is hysterical. Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that story. Nobody will tell, I promise. All of our viewers will just not repeat it. It just stays right here.
Yeah. Who knows if they're even alive, right? I don't know how long people that work for the cartel stay alive. That's really bad. We shouldn't say things like that.
Rachel, when I do a lot of interviews, and one thing that I always get asked is kind of what's my why? What's my motivation? And for me, my answer is always my kids, my family. Everything that I've done and still do is to continue to be better for them, for resources for them, and also that they see that they can do it too. I know you're not just all of these amazing things as an entrepreneur and a lawyer, but you're also a wife and mom. So why don't you share your family with us and your why?
I am a mom of 3. I have a 17-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And like just about every mom out there, they are why I do what I do. But I actually don't use them as my why very often because to me, it's kind of a given. I once heard a song, I believe it's by Katy Perry, and I don't even know the words. It might be Roar. And it's
a lot of her songs running through my head right now.
My own hero, right? You want to be your own hero. And I thought that lyric really resonated with me because I thought, well, if I'm my own hero, then think about the example that I would be for my kids, for my
Right.
family, for my clients, for everybody. And so that's truly what I try and do every day, is just become the best version of myself and be my own hero. As a lawyer, I try and solve problems. I don't like people to be stressed. Excuse me. My office always tells me that I'm like the problem solver, and just generally in life. And I take it to work with me. When people walk in, I always want to tell them, like, it's not insurmountable. We can solve the problem.
Yes.
Maybe there's not the time or the money to solve it, but we can always solve it. There's a solution for everything. It's just
Right.
getting there.
Right. And isn't that just true in life? And sometimes the solution is letting go and realizing I got to let go of this thing. But what a beautiful answer for life, even. And the fact that you come in, and I would imagine when your clients are coming to you, it's at a heightened state in their life, probably one of the most stressful things they're going through. And you have to bring that peace and that calm to them. Do you feel that your family gives you that peace and calm that passes on into your career?
No. Does any mom
They
get
charge you up?
peace and calm from their 3 children? My family supports everything I do. They
Good.
support all of my crazy notions. I have a farm, and that was like my idea.
Aw.
All sorts of things that go on. I think my family does a really great job of giving me different outlets so that I'm not super stressed. As a lawyer, being a lawyer is really stressful. You have everybody else's problems kind of on your shoulders. So my kids are a really great distraction. And my husband really supports, again, all of my crazy ideas. I run and I do yoga also to help with that. But my
Nice.
family, it takes me away from my business, but I don't think that they relax me
I
at
always say
all.
mine tolerates. I think that's the word I usually, well, they tolerate me and my business.
So I think they're pretty good. They like it. My oldest daughter has recently said that she wants to be a lawyer. So for years, she would be irate when people would, when she was in the lovely years of like 10
Right.
or 11 to 16. Uh, People would tell her, "You look just like your mom," or "Are you gonna be a lawyer like your mom?" And she would be furious, like not talk, storm out. How dare they? Like, I'm my own person. And then
Don't you
the other
love
day,
that?
he said, "I think I'm going to be a lawyer." So I
Uh-huh.
think they actually embrace my career. And I also feel very fortunate that my children and my husband embrace my career.
That's fantastic. I'm so excited to see how that can come around full circle with your daughter. I remember when my oldest son first picked up a guitar at like 14, and he looked at me and said, "No, I will never play for you. I will never play country music." That kid has stood next to me on some of the biggest stages and toured with me for years. I'm like, "Never, huh? Really,
Yeah,
never?" And now he's like, "Mom, when are we playing again?" Yeah, never, huh? I
I
love it
always
when that
tell
happens.
her, yeah, you try to balance it, right? You don't want to be, when she first told me, I didn't want to be too
Right,
excited because I was like, oh, she's going to change her mind. So I try and
right.
be like the cool, like, oh, yeah, I mean, if you want to be a lawyer, that'd be good. And then on the inside, I'm like, yes.
Just has to be her idea.
Right.
Uh, Rachel, you are absolutely just one of the, like I said, the coolest humans I've ever met in my life. And so for everybody who just watched this, you can see amazing entrepreneur, veteran, incredible lawyer, caring mom, and just a really great friend too. For anybody who wants to reach Rachel, you can see the website is right here at the bottom handle. She takes consultations, she answers her phone. And Rachel, is there any last words you have? If anybody wants to reach out to you, or do you still have availability to take on new cases?
Absolutely. I would love to take on new cases. In fact, I'm open over the holidays. So if
Yay!
you are one of the unfortunate ones that get served over the holidays or has a legal issue, give me a call. You can call or you can text. The text number actually is the same as my office number, but it comes directly to my cell phone. So you can say, "Hey, Rachel, what's up?" And I will respond.
Thank you so much for inspiring so many entrepreneurs, so many young women, and for being a solution to so many people in difficult times. You are just first class. Thanks for being on In the Spotlight today.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy.